So I'm sitting here doing Friday Q&A with you. Wait for some people to roll in. Turn on. They made this all different. All messaging. There we go. All messaging is on. It must mean all chat. We're gonna make some tea. Gonna wait for some folks to roll in. And remember, I don't start answering questions until my tea is ready and I've had some tea. So I can be a human. So I'm just gonna do the this is the silver needle, and I love this tea. It's definitely like, it's crazy that it's my daily drinker when I make tea because it's a relatively fancy tea, but I love it. And actually, it'll be sad when I run out of it, because what happened is I tried to order like a pound of this different tea that the company was selling, but apparently they should have had the listing hidden. And so what happened was I bought it, and then they were like, "Oh my gosh, we don't have this, but we're gonna swap you out for this like silver needle, very high end tea." And I got a pound of that for like $100 less because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is not just really fancy tea, but at a pound it'll last me away." Hey everybody, rolling in. Okay, let me get my water started, and then we can go over there. Here we go. So yeah, I had a pretty good week. Just garden stuff, family stuff, work stuff, that type of, I finally, this morning, I'm finally getting my, my drip, well, not drip lines. I went with soaker hoses over drip lines. Just, with drip lines for the garden, you have to be so specific about where it's dripping, and you have to punch a hole and drop a thing. And I'm like, I like a soaker hose because I can just weave it around the plants. I don't have that extra step, right? And so I've got about 4 more of those to get set up for the garden before the heat really comes in Northeast Oregon, right? But yesterday was nice. We went to, we got a little festival going on right now, the Jackalope Jamboree, and so we went and saw music yesterday, got an amazing tintype done, ate some food, listened to some music, but it was nice because it was like overcast and windy. There was actually a point where it was kind of cold. Whereas the last time we went, it was like literally a heat wave, and it was like 115 degrees out or something crazy like that, And so I'm glad that it wasn't that. I'm also drinking a smoothie right now. I didn't get drinking time. I'm like, it's my breakfast, and I should have had this way sooner. So I'm going to go back and forth between the two. It's pretty much, I make a smoothie every single morning, and I make it with, I've got milk kefir in there, L-reuteri, L-gaceri, and then tons of fruit, raw eggs, coconut oil, cane sugar. Yeah, the tintype. Yeah, I got this dress locally at a random feed store. It was on sale, and I'm glad it was on sale. But what was the brand? I don't remember the brand right now, and I can't see my own tag. But yeah, I did happen to not buy this one off of Amazon. But remember, I'm making my tea first before I answer questions. I know everyone's rolling in for questions, but it just lets me, exist for a minute before and just kind of like settle in and be a human and catch people up, because I know a lot of people miss the tea times, and the book is going well. The only thing I'm a little worried about is I'm making like videos to go along with it, and like we're about to have like fire season closure, but I need to make a video about like campfires, so I'm gonna have to try to push to get that in, or go higher up in the elevation where they haven't closed the season yet to make the video probably. But yeah, here comes a tea, which eventually it'll get hot enough in here that I'm like, we're having iced tea. No, I need to get my vents cleaned so I can turn my air conditioner on. I know if I do it right now, the air conditioner works, but we had battled a little bit of mold, and I need to get those vents cleaned before I turned it on, or I'm just gonna kick up old mold into the house and defeat all the purposes I've done. So, but yeah, so it's been pretty good. I've got my first pepper. I seems like a witch pepper. I don't know. Because everybody else has just got little bitty baby peppers on them, right? Because we're just getting started with the summer here. But then there's this one, it's like an Orono sweet pepper that's like this long already. And I was like, where did you come from? I saw her the other day and she got busy soon, and so that pepper will be ready before every other pepper in the garden. And I've got little bitty baby green tomatoes, and things are coming in good, you know. Um, but yeah, so I'm just kind of, I don't know, kind of trying to have a little bit of a slow summer and um, use up all the milk. Too much milk, all the milk. We're up to like 3 gallons a day now, just off of the 3 goats. It's like a gallon per goat, and we're not even milking honey because honestly, she's kind of a bitch. So we're kind of working her into it, but once we get her going, that would probably be it. She's not a big milker like the other one, so but it'll probably put us at 3.5 gallons, maybe 4 gallons a day, you know. So that'll be a thing when it happens, and lots and lots of milk kefir being made, and I started making skyr yogurt, but like the traditional way, and it is so thick and creamy. And the thing that about skyr yogurt when you make your own is that it doesn't have the same type of lactobacillus bacteria that normal yogurt does. So like if you don't like the way yogurt tastes tangy, skyr is the one for you, because these bacteria kind of leave behind a buttery flavor. It tastes like you're eating butter, and I just whip it up. I just whip it up with a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of honey, and then add fruit to it. Oh my god, it is. You can turn your spoon upside down thick. It's pretty fantastic. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Everyone's saying hi, Kelly. So hi, Kelly. Unless you think my name is Kelly, I have that weird thing in my life where like everybody thinks that my name is anything but it is. My name is April, but some people are like, "Oh, hi, Patricia." How you doing, Morgan? How you doing, Amber? I get that one a lot, Oh, thank you so much, Allison. And it's like so. But if there are people here that are named Kelly, hi. I never know because I don't see the comment section. Oh, Kelly's new April. Thanks for joining, Kelly. Right, because I never know because of the comment section, and I'm like a creep. I look myself in the eye as I talk to keep on track, But yeah, everyone rolling in. That much time left. That much time left before tea, and I get started answering questions. It started when I was young. I used to, not be at great houses when I was young, and there was this one place I went to, and parents were definitely doing dope and shit like that, and I'm just hanging out with the teenager kids doing shit I shouldn't do, and I was like, hey, my name is April, and she's like, hey, and then like a week later I hear that she's angry at me because I lied to her about my name. I'm like, what? And she went around and she went on a rampage telling everybody all over town that my name was actually Amber, and I'm like, my name is April. I don't even know where she got the information from. And so, like, it was like 6 months of people just screaming at me, calling me Amber, and being like, and she was some sort of fucking curse rippled in motion, and so now everyone always assumes my name is something that it's not. Alrighty, so I've had my tea. That means I'm done. That means if you have a health herbal related questions for me, you can throw it on the screen. Say question in big caps and then your question, and I'll do my best. I'm going to flip my timer over. I go for about 30 minutes, sometimes a little longer, depending on if my brain holds me captive or not. So somebody said, I'm new here too. My name is Kelly. And cleaning, when you said hi, Kelly, I was like, oh, what does she know? I'm here. You gotta love when stuff like that happens. You're like, what? It happens to me a lot during the month of April. People are like, they're saying April all the time. And I'm like, oh, are you talking about me? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, sorry. Question, what is your opinion on colloidal silver? I think there are a lot of things that I would do internally before I started using colloidal silver internally. Topically, it's really amazing for healing wounds, but like any heavy metal, it can fuck you up. So if you are going to use it internally, do really small amounts, and you better make sure that your liver's on point. There are too many people that turn themselves blue, and it's so funny because people will be like, oh, that only happens if they're not doing it right, if they're not making it right. Well, you are a human that makes errors, so, just be really careful because you can, like, really harm your liver and your internal organs and your brain function, things like that. And if you do look at metals from, like, a health perspective, like gold and silver, they would be, like, micronutrients, like super teeny tiny amounts. And so I really don't think it's a good idea that people use it the way they do. It's one of those things to have a lot of respect for. Question, best thing for a sting. If we're talking about bee stings, I want you to just put some mud on it and let it dry. Right, if you're afraid of mud, you could use meat tenderizer. You could use plantain, of course, not the banana, the plant, the weed that grows in your yard, the weed, right? But she's pretty amazing. Chamomile tea bag is fantastic for that too. Question, what herb gives you a good shit? Greetings from Holland. That would be you've got to look into like what your digestive tract is doing as well. But if you really want to take a good shit, you can look into working with like slippery elm bark. It's pretty fantastic. Mallow root. And if you really need to go, cascara bark. But make sure that it's aged, because if it's not aged, it'll give you horrendous stomach cramps, and you need just a little bit. And make sure you're not going to work. Right? Let's see. Question. Do you mess with hairy wood mint? Just found a big patch. I don't, because I've never found her around here. But most mints are usable, right? So you could probably dig in to see what she's for. I'm guessing she would be like every other mint, where she's good for digestive aid, immune support, sore muscles, things like that. Um, Okay, so question, perimenopause, hormone balancing. Well, if you ever balanced your hormones, you'd be dead. They're always in flux, but I know what you mean. You know, I just always like to put that out there. But I really like working with things like pine pollen, maybe wild yam root. Most people are, not just women, like people like men and women are like typically estrogen dominant from like soy laden foods and rancid PUFA oils, seed oils in our diet, right? But one thing that isn't looked at for women is how often our testosterone levels are really low because of the estrogen dominance. So I like pine pollen because it has a lot of androgen precursors in there, but it's also got a little bit of DHEA, which is like a master hormone that your body turns into like all the hormones you need. And so I really like working with pine pollen for that. But also I like chamomile, so much so that I have a synergism capsule made out of the two. If anybody's interested in it, it's a chamomile pine pollen synergism, is because the chamomile likes to help your body get the excess estrogen and or hormones in general. It opens up your hormone pathways through your liver, so you can get the little excess out there, and it's really helpful. Um, Question, what to do with chocolate mint besides tea? You could make a tincture. You could make like an infused witch hazel for a spray. You could dry it and make an infused oil for a body rub. What is your opinion for ovarian follicle? Oh, Jesus. Oh, my brain was like, how did that word? I've got dysgraphia, so shit jumps around on me. Despairing. Is it possible to grow again? Any medicine or herb that can help grow again? Well, you know, I don't have anything specific in my mind about like regrowing like follicles, right? In that regard. But maybe if you just looked into like deeply nourishing your body, right? And not to say that like you haven't been trying, but like when we look at like how depleted our system is from like nutrients, minerals, healthy animal fats, it's really hard for our body to repair and become fertile and things like that and be ready for like any sort of pregnancy. I assume that's what you're looking for, without having the excess nutrients and minerals that it needs. And you'd be surprised how able your body is at repairing itself when it feels like flush, right? When it's like, yes, I have all I need. And remember, just because we might be eating a lot doesn't mean that we're taking in a lot of nutrition. So you could look into like nourishing herbal infusions, look into the work of like the Weston Price Foundation, look into like the root cause protocol. All those things smashed together would probably get your body up and functioning no matter what you're dealing with right now. Anybody who's watching, it would benefit you, right? We would all benefit from deep nutrition. Question, is there anything herbal to help with PCOS? Yeah, so I really like pine pollen for that. Actually, there are quite a few studies showing that pine pollen helps reduce ovarian cysts. Okay, what is best for pleurisy? Just getting over pneumonia, it's been the worst. Oh man, I hate pleurisy. When I was a kid, I had it. Um, I went to like this like off-brand outdoor school thing for like off-brand Girl Scouts, right? And they didn't like me. I don't know what it was about me. They were just fucking mean to me, and they stuck me by this window, and it was wintertime, and the window was like cracked and single pane, and it was like really cold out, and I ended up getting pleurisy, and so it would hurt whenever you'd walk a lot or exert yourself. I did physically grow out of it, but one thing that my grandma did a lot for me is she was putting castor oil packs right here, right around your lung area, lower part, and that helped a lot. So it might be something that helps you. Um, so, question: my husband has extreme fatigue. How can I help him? It depends on what's causing the fatigue. Have you had his testosterone levels checked? Have you had his thyroid levels checked? Do you have mold in your house? But generally, you could start working. I feel like I'm talking about pine pollen a lot. Pine pollen is great for men because it does support all of their testosterone levels. You can make sure that he's getting the rancid seed oils out of his diet. He could start doing low impact, low cardio weightlifting. Like, I don't want you to like hurt yourself because he's exhausted, but like building muscle increases testosterone, right? Whether you're a man or a woman, muscle growth is fantastic for hormonal health. But I would also look into like getting him like a nutrient panel done. Is he low in vitamin K? Does he have no vitamin D in his body? Does he, and so kind of like looking around and like getting some blood work done, even like an HTMA hair test, which those these days you can get relatively cheap online. You order them for yourself. Would be better than swinging in the dark, right? Question: what do you do for a stagnant lymph? I like cleavers infusion or tincture for lymphatic flow. Start jumping on a trampoline. You could also look into like calendula, and if it's really bad, you could work with really tiny amounts of poke root tincture, like 1 drop. But I would try cleavers, calendula, rebounding, dry brushing. I would try all of that before I did poke root. Question: what can be used for arthritis in his hands? My brother takes injections and they still hurt after the injections. What might help him? Depends on what type of arthritis is it. If it's rheumatoid arthritis, look into LDN. It's not an herb, it's a medication. He'd need a prescription, but you can get a prescription online these days. Really fantastic for anything autoimmune, regardless if it's arthritis or whatever you've got going on. But if it's not that, if it's osteo, like his bones are grinding away, right? He might look into like a bull thistle tincture, eating more collagen, bone broth, vitamin C. If you're not taking in the things your body requires to build joints, you can't repair it. Right. LDN might be good for that too. It's really a powerful anti-inflammatory that's really gentle on the body, and you take it in microscopic doses. Um, okay, question. A friend has elevated PSA after having prostate removed. Would you recommend iodine or anything else? Iodine is always good, but we want to really go slow because what happens is we typically have bromide buildup in our body from eating like bromide conditioned dough over the years, right? It's in anything. Even if you're getting gluten free bread, it's going to have bromide in it because they use it to condition the dough. And bromide competes for areas in your thyroid. Right, and so when you start taking iodine, it starts kicking the bromide out and it can make you feel horrible. So go really slow. Seaweed might be a good option for him too, right? That might be a good slower. It can still go slow. I have a video about it. It can still make you feel kind of like yuck because there's, iodine in it. But I do like seaweed infusions better than just pure iodine because it comes along with everything that it needs because nothing in nature like exists by itself. Nothing is singular, right? It always has compounds and things alongside of it, and you get that with seaweed. Um, Okay, so question: is there something you can do for a sick fatty liver and something to help your kidneys? It might be answer one of the same. I really like dandelion root for both kidney and liver support. If you already have a really fatty liver, I would get a panel done looking at all of your vitamin Bs. Remember, it's not just like B1 or B12, like you have lots of it. And a lot of B deficiencies can lead to fatty liver, right? Especially like NALFLA, like non alcoholic fatty liver. NALFAT, I always say it wrong, but if you have a fatty liver and it's not from drinking, that can be caused by low vitamin Bs. So get that checked out. And I also like artichoke extract. Artichoke tincture. It is just artichoke. It's a food. It's really fantastic for fatty liver issues and just liver support in general. Okay, so let's see. What about topical iodine? Yeah, topical iodine isn't bad. Same thing will happen though. No matter how you're getting the iodine into your body, it can cause detox things. There's a thing called iodine protocol you can look into. Just go slow with it, really slow with it. Um, Question: my boyfriend had his large colon removed. He has some inflammation at the moment. Lost it. Going to the bathroom a lot, low energy. What would you suggest? I would start working on his gut health, right? He didn't just have part of his colon removed. He had like all of his gut health wiped out because they probably made him go through an extensive amount of shitting his brains out before the surgery, right? Like just like you would for a colonoscopy, and they're using all kinds of stuff in there and it's trauma to the body. And so if you started making your own homemade milk kefir, and even if you're lactose intolerant or casein intolerant, the really, really amazing thing about homemade milk kefir, not the fake stuff from the store, is that these bacterial colonies, they look like little milk bugs. I have a video about it here on my YouTube. They actually eat the lactose and the casein. So people who are lactose or casein intolerant, whether it's because they have poor gut health or because it's like part of their ethnicity, they can typically tolerate milk kefir. You have to work your way up, but there's like trillions and trillions and trillions of beneficial bacteria in this that could help repair his gut health, right? You could also look into like L-reuteri and L-gasteri yogurts that you make on your own, but those also exist in the milk kefir, right? And for the inflammation, you could start working with like linden infusion, right? Things like that to really calm the inflammation down. I find her more effective than, they're going to give you like NSAIDs, like you're going to take like a Tylenol or something like that. I would just pick linden over that any day of the week. Question, help for stuffy feeling nose that's hard to breathe through, but it's dry, no mucus. Okay, so you don't have mucus in your nose because your nose is inflamed, right? So something's going on in your immune system, or something's frustrating your nose, something you're allergic to, there's mold in your house, something like that going on. I really like nettle infusion for this. She's fantastic for opening up airways, knocking down that inflammation. And if you want to get real specific, and if you could find some Pearly Everlasting growing around you, or somebody who has a Pearly Everlasting tincture, she's pretty fantastic for knocking down that inflammation and opening up those airways. You could also look into like getting way more vitamin C in your body to like reduce your histamine levels. It could be histamine related too. But if you don't have like seasonal allergies and you suddenly have that issue no matter what, I would get your house tested for mold. Right. It's so much more prevalent than we realize. So somebody said help for my child hooked on fentanyl, cut with synthetic sedatives. It's horrible. You know, beyond like getting them into a rehab, like they have to want the help themselves, but also like look into like what it's like to live without dopamine in your body, and how you can start like increasing like healthy dopamine levels, right? Like if it was my kid and I had the capacity to, I'd snatch their ass and take them to the woods. Right, like you're about to go through fucking detox, and then you're gonna like live here in the dirt near the fire in the trees, and you're gonna fucking eat, and you're gonna get sunshine in your eyes in the morning, and you're gonna hear the water running, and we're gonna take you away from your phone, and we're gonna like fucking have like deep uncomfortable conversations where you fucking puke your trauma out, right? But it's not always that simple, right? And I understand that, but getting them help is the first through it, right? And then learning about what we can do to increase their dopamine naturally, right? California poppy might be a good friend here because it hits the same receptors in the brain, right? It hits your opioid receptors, and so it makes your body think that you're getting what you want, but there's no actual opioids in California poppy. Question, ordered a chamomile extract from Mountain Rose Herbs. Will it help with sleep? How many drops should my 15-year-old use before bed? It's possible. They're probably using dried plant matter and high proof alcohol to make it, so I would start really low. I have a video called Let's Talk All About Tinctures that helps you learn your dosage, right? Because it's not a pharmaceutical medication where, like, if you weigh X amount, you take this amount. Herbs are different, right? You have to start low and work your way up and see how it works for your body. And I would start with like 1 drop with something that is made the way that they'll be making it, because it won't be overly balanced, because there's no water soluble properties left in that tincture because they use dry plant matter. So just make sure that you start with 1 drop, understanding that it's more potent than it's not that it's better, it's just stronger because it's out of balance, right? So start low and work your way up, and make sure that they communicate with you like how they're feeling while they take, and put it in some water. Don't raw dog it under your tongue or anything like that. That'll burn your membranes. Question, my boyfriend has this large, I already answered that one. Okay, so what's a real strong natural anti-anxiety? Well, first, I could throw things at you. I could say like chamomile's fantastic, skullcap will knock you out, will help you. Some people have the genetics to not feel it. So just if you take a skullcap tincture and you don't feel anything from it, know that there's nothing wrong with the tincture, it's your genetics. But like, are you under eating? Have you ever like looked genuinely at how many calories you eat a day, and knowing like as an adult like human, I assume you might be a woman, you probably you need 2,500 calories just to sit here and do nothing. Right. Most of us are eating what a toddler requires in a day. So if you start increasing your carbohydrates, which is another place that we're afraid of, like you can eat a ton of vegetables, but you can eat like you need to make sure that you're eating like root vegetables and squash and like rice, and your body needs carbohydrates. I say this as a person who I used to be on disability for a decade for severe CPTSD. Like I was bad enough that I got put on disability for it. And if you don't know this, that's actually really hard to do for like psychological disorders. So it was bad. I was agoraphobic. I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. Huge amount of it was because I just fucking starved all the time without realizing it. I didn't think that I was fat. I just, from years of being homeless, I had learned to not feel hunger cues anymore. So in my mind, like a small amount of leftovers and like maybe a dinner was like a normal amount of food. But no, changed my life to gain a bunch of weight, like in a good way. Thank you so much for the super Rena Elmer. She says, thanks for the chamomile extract advice. You are so welcome. Um, but yeah, so I mean, you can use herbs to manage your anxiety, but don't be afraid to dig deeper. Don't be afraid to be like, why am I having anxiety? Right? Like beyond my trauma, like what's happening with me physically that I can help? Like, am I just, depriving myself? Do I have a nutrient deficiency? Do I have no magnesium in my body? Things like that are something to look at. Question: I have a glycerin tincture, milk thistle recommendation, 3 full droppers per day. Will affect my liver because I have a bit of a bilirubin in blood. It's possible. And I don't like glycerin because glycerin is actually hard on the liver. People think it's alcohol free, but it's just a fatty sugar alcohol. It's an alcohol that your liver can't process, and so you don't feel drunk off of it, but it's why it'll make you shit your brains out if you take a bunch of it. But I don't like it being hard, how hard it is on the liver because you can't process it, right? So, that combined with the fact that you have liver issues already, I don't know. I might opt just for like a little bit of like the milk thistle seed powder and try a small amount and see how you're doing. You could also work with just something like dandelion root. Roasted dandelion root tea every day is a bit more gentle on the liver, and you wouldn't have any of those issues. Milk thistle isn't bad, but she can make us feel really fucking gross, and she can be hard on the liver if you take her in excess or for too long, whereas dandelion you can use every day you want and won't hurt anything. So let's see. Question: what are the best herbs? I have diabetes type 2 and hyperthyroid. Well, it's hard because that comes down to diet. First of all, get all the rancid seed oils out of your life. That is the polyunsaturated fatty acids. I'm talking canola oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, vegetable oil, all these oils. Basically, if it's not avocado oil, olive oil, coconut, or animal fats, it's rancid and it's causing oxidation in your body. And the really thing to know about this is the Randall cycle. And that's like where basically how your body shuttles glucose into your cells. But these rancid seed oils that our body can't really process, so it just stores them away, actually end up kind of acting like a barrier, right? Like think about a cell and it gets coated in oil, and then the glucose can't get in, right? And so that's really interesting stuff to look into, like getting all that stuff out of your diet. Making sure that you're eating more beans, like well prepared and properly soaked beans. It sounds crazy, but beans are really, really great at regulating blood sugar levels. You also need it to grab onto like your bile in your gut so you can like shit out your toxic bile and make new bile. All that stuff can really have a huge impact, on diabetes and hyperthyroid like that, like it. And so, but for thyroid, you could start working with something like shilajit, bee pollen, and things like that. Getting sun in your eyes in the morning. It's like so free and easy to do, and it really, really helps thyroid function and body function and stuff. Um, Question: I have, oh my goodness, this is a hard one. I don't know if I can help this. I don't know a whole lot about that type of seizures. I don't want to go on any anti-seizure meds. Do you have any recommendations? Without knowing the type of seizure, and the seizures are really tricky, maybe just do a deep dive into like the work of Dr. Raymond Peat and his direct work, not the million people who rewrite it. And I only say that because I think maybe if you fall down the rabbit hole of like understanding like metabolism and how it impacts the body as a whole, and like what certain hormones may or may not be causing, and again without digging into what triggers the seizure, I don't really know uh anything specific, but you might find some breadcrumbs there. Right. It's something interesting. Also, and this is on the complete, well, not really the flip side. There's this guy named Dr. Stevens. I don't suggest buying his book. It's absurd. But the foundation and the work behind the book and like the people who talk about it and share studies with it are pretty fantastic about how like a lot of issues in the brain, including seizures, trauma, all kinds of like Alzheimer's, it's actually because our brain doesn't have enough glucose. Right. And so I find that really interesting. And people are talking about like how it helps them. And it goes against the mainstream because these people are eating like pure dextrose, right? It's pure glucose. We should be afraid of it, right? But it's really, really interesting stuff. And it might be a rabbit hole to fall down. Um, Question. What can I do for cold hands and feet? Thank you. So sorry to yell at you. It's okay. It's all in caps. Um, cold hands and feet are a symptom of either poor circulation or poor thyroid, right? And it's probably potato. If you wake up in the morning and your like body temperature is below 98.6 for very long, you probably have thyroid issues. Whereas if you wake up and you have a really crazy high one, you probably have hyperthyroid. Hypo goes low temperature, hyper goes fast. Thank you so much for the super Cody. Let me finish answering this one and I'll jump to yours. So you could start looking at something to like support your circulation, like ginger root tea all the time. You could look into like hawthorn berries to support that. But then like get your thyroid checked. See what's going on there. Like to see if like your levels are really low. You could start working with things like beef liver. You can do the capsules if you don't feel like you can eat it. You might find that just giving like the B vitamins and things that your thyroid needs might speed things up. So Cody Austin asks with the super, since there's no process to become a certified herbalist in the USA, what is the benchmark for someone to become one whenever you're ready? The trick is accepting your limits, right? You've heard me saying here, I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know about a thing, but maybe you could look into this, right? And that's the really important thing. And the really scary thing is how often an herbalist will like die on a hill of not knowing something. Like I talked about it a little while ago in a reel where a lady was like basically giving advice to a person and I was like, hey, she has a genetic mutation and like that will kill her, right? Like you're not understanding this genetic mutation. Like she doesn't need more iron. She's dying from too much iron in her body because she has the Celtic gene, right? And she's like, no. And she was like literally willing to like push this person to their death because she couldn't admit that she didn't know a thing, right? And so really you are ready to teach as soon as you know a thing, and as long as you are understanding that you don't know millions of things, right? We'll never know everything, and so we need to act like we know nothing, right? And it doesn't mean that you know nothing. It just means that like you have to humble yourself and have those limitations. Have those limitations and get curious. Allow yourself to grow. It's so sad when people are like, I know everything. I'm like, well, that's no fun because you don't get to learn new things. And that seems like a death sentence to my brain. Like I constantly want to be learning. There are things that I'll say now that I maybe wouldn't have agreed with 5, 10 years ago. And there are things that I'll say 6 months ago that I will expand my knowledge on and know more about or think have changed. And that's just how information evolves. And if we allow ourselves to practice that in our life in all areas, the amount of growth we can have is phenomenal. So yeah, there's no such thing as a certified herbalist in the United States. No, there's not. Don't at me in the comment. You've been scammed. But, just feeling confident and capable and like, and see how much you can do for yourself and your family and your loved ones. And then really ask yourself if you want to step into the public view of that. But at any point in time, you can be an herbalist. Okay, I'm going to jump on down here. Let's see, what can I do for lymphedema? Well, I would actually look into like working with something like cleavers or calendula or the rebounding and the dry brushing that I talked about for talked about for lymphatic flow, right? Because when we start supporting our lymphatic flow and start doing dry brushing and like jumping on a trampoline and that type of stuff, it can really help move all this excess moisture out of our body, which is really driving lymphedema. Right? I'm probably not saying it right, but I mean, though, I never pronounced it correctly. Right? And also, don't take yourself too seriously. Right? Like, you don't have to speak fucking Latin fluently. You don't have to know how to pronounce a word perfectly or have it all your shit together. Like, you can be like a real human. You can be a real human and practice herbalism and whatever you want, Question, what can I give my dog to help with itchy skin? She has no fleas at all. Look at her food. Right, look at her food and see what's in that food. I bet there's essential oils in that food. They put rosemary extract in everything now. But it could be also like the grains. You might need to get her a grain-free dog food, right? In the meantime, you could make a chamomile infused oil, or an oatmeal infused oil. Just use dried oatmeal, put it in your jar, put something like avocado oil over top of it, and then let that infuse in a warm, dark place for like 4 to 5 weeks. Strain it out, and it's just like an oatmeal bath. And there's nothing toxic about it, right, for a dog, because it's oatmeal. And so that might help. But I would look into like the root cause of like they're either like allergic to something in their food, they're allergic to something in your home, there's something going on if they have itchy skin but no fleas, right? Question, should I freeze elderflowers before drying for tea? You don't have to. They don't go into a dandelion puff. And the reason they ask that is because if you ever tried to dry a dandelion bloom or arnica bloom or even something like fireweed, and what happens is it just turns into the puff. You can stop that from happening if you freeze it for 24 hours first and then dry it, because you need to kill the plant. I mean, it just is what it is, because what happens is it has energy reserves, and so they turn into a puff, right? They use the last of their dying will to create their babies. And if you want to stop that, you got to murder killer all the way in the freezer. But you don't have to worry about that with elder blooms, because they don't turn into a puff, right? You don't have to do that with any bloom unless it turns into something you can make a wish with, right? Okay, so dogs get allergies and you can give them Benadryl. Yeah, I don't know. I would try to figure out what the issue was before I threw something like Benadryl at them. Just because it could be food related, and then you're just suppressing something that's like bothering their body, right? You're just suppressing symptoms. When you take something like Benadryl, you're not actually reducing the allergies in your body, just so you know. You're just blocking a receptor in your brain so it can't necessarily react. But what happens is when you stop taking the Benadryl or the Claritin or whatever, your allergies can be like 100 times worse, because it's built up in your body and you haven't done anything to get rid of the issue. So, question, what to do for bleeding tissue and clots mid-cycle? I would look into your vitamin K levels. Start drinking nettle infusion, although that's only vitamin K1. You can also start making sure that you're eating lots of genuinely grass-fed, like butter and cheese and things like that. The problem with animal fats for vitamin K2 is if the animal didn't get a lot of grass, it doesn't get K1 to convert into the K2. Right, and so it's a problem because you aren't getting the nutrients you need. But a lot of women, if they bleed really heavy and they have really heavy clots during their cycle, typically are vitamin K2 deficient, K1 or K2. And you can eat a lot of leafy greens, but your liver, if it's like at the peak of its existence, can only process about 10% of vitamin K1 from plants into the K2 you need. So it's really easy to become deficient. Okay, so anything for hay fever, right back to that nettle infusion. Nettle infusion is fantastic, and actually elderberry. Elderberry is pretty good, but you kind of need to start using elderberry for allergies before the allergy season kicks in. Sometimes if you use elderberry after allergy season, it can actually make it worse, because it like turns up your immune system's ability to freak out over the thing you're allergic to. But if you start using it beforehand, it's already modulated itself, right? But nettle is something that you can use year round. A nettle infusion, I have a video on how to make it. It's really just like hot water poured over a certain amount of herbs and let it sit till the next day and drink it. It's super simple. What to do for dark circles under your eyes? You probably have vitamin deficiencies. You're either looking at iron deficiency, vitamin K deficiency. Those are the two main ones that I would look at. But some people put, like, you can get vitamin K drops and put it under your eyes, but try not to mask it. You can use things like eye bright, coffee, things like that, but like see why your body is looking that way. Are you not sleeping well? Are you exposed to mold? Are you really like deficient in some sort of vitamin? But yeah, oh my goodness, it's been a great Q&A. I think it's been about 38 minutes. My timer's up. I think that timer's off. I think it's only 25. I should time it at some point. I said it was supposed to be a 30-minute timer. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you would like to support my capacity to just dump my brain out freely, to be a real human, to keep tea in my pot and a roof over my head, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. You do get early access to videos that I upload. Like tomorrow, there's one coming out about how to make make a cold brewed like herbal tea for like chamomile and things like that. But if you can't afford to join, I don't even want you to worry about it because I release one of these videos every weekend. So it's not a paywall, it's just a little bitty baby time wall. If you can't do that, or even if you can, consider checking out my apothecary. I make all kinds of stuff. There's something for everybody. I've got books, capsules, tooth powder, deodorant, you name it, there's probably something there that can help you. And you can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off of anything you'd like to call home in the shop. You can also make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. Sharing is important because it helps other people realize that like they are smart enough to take their health back into their hands with herbs one simple step at a time too, just like you are. Helps get my work out there, all that kind of stuff. It's super beneficial. So thank you so much for watching, folks, and I'll see everybody next Friday. Bye.